Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh, yeah. Hello there. Welcome to the program. It is April 7th. Here's a little, one little sentence that probably could have come out of any of our mouths if we were so clever. Here it is. My desire to be well informed is currently at odds with my desire to remain sane. Right? I think I have to blow my nose. Right before the show started, I had one of those sneezing fits. I must say, great sneezes. I mean, you know, the kind that are like orgasmic. I mean, just wonderful sneezes, great release. But I'm suffering the after effects. Anyway, well, if you're, I know some of you come to listen to this program by your desire to be well informed. And you do know that it is not good often for your mental health. But what the hell? A case in point, this just happened to come up across one of my screens. There have been 4 Secret Service agents who have been placed on leave. Now, the reason being that the FBI has arrested 2 men for impersonating Department of Homeland Security agents. And they've done this apparently for more than 2 years. And in the course of impersonating DHS agents, they have been showering Secret Service people with really nice gifts. For instance, providing rent-free apartments that cost more than $40,000 annually to not only members of the Secret Service, but also to a DHS employee. One of the Secret Service people they were showering with gifts is assigned to protect First Lady Jill Biden. And they apparently offered to give that agent a $2,000 assault rifle. The more you look into this is all just breaking, so there's not a lot of information out. But it says that these 2 obtained assault rifles, handguns, and all these other things that they posed and apparently passed for agents from the Department of Homeland Security, passed even with the Secret Service guys. For years, the gifts they gave the Secret Service guys included iPhones, surveillance systems, a drone, flat screen television, a generator, all kinds of law enforcement paraphernalia. Who the heck knows? Don't ask me. They were found sort of accidentally when they ended up being interviewed by a postal inspector because of the assault on a letter carrier in their apartment complex. And they had been potential witnesses. And when they identified themselves as investigators with the United States Special Police. I don't know. I don't understand. This thing gets okay. Whatever. Just to let you know that it's yow. There'll be a rain today in U.S. District Court in D.C. So there you have it. 2 guys arrested and 4 Secret Service agents, I think, in a heap of trouble. Good Lord. So I think today that it's going to be one of those shows that's all over the place because, frankly, I don't have any theme, and I have all this stuff that's been piling up that I've been wanting to share with you. Did you hear about the 9 feet tall people who used to live around here? I'm not kidding. It sounds like, yeah, right, yeah. I mean, Bigfoot? No. I was reading an article in, I think it was the PG. And it was an article about a local guy who does history. I mean, he just digs in to the history of the area. And I guess he shows up on a local radio station a lot with his stuff because it sounds like, he just has a lot of interesting stuff. He probably has websites, and all I can tell you is his name is, I don't know what, Shokoski. So a lot of you are ahead of me on this, I'm sure. But in this article about him, it was a profile on him. It said that one of the things he found, is mind-blowing, is that there were apparently a group of gigantic people who lived in Western Pennsylvania, and especially like around the Allegheny River. Now, this is a long time ago. So that when Native Americans came to the area, they actually overlapped with these people because it was through their stories about these 9 foot tall, these giants, that the story first began to circulate. I'm sure most people didn't believe it. It was considered apocryphal. And then in 1921, it's amazing that's 100 years ago. I used to think of it as just the other day. Wow. 100 years ago, a University of Pittsburgh archaeologist doing a dig in Verona came across these 2 old skeletons. And they were both about 9 feet tall. And then in the 1940s, guys doing another dig came upon a whole bunch of skeletons in South Park, 2 of which were that tall. And these guys, I think the Native Americans had called them the like alleged people. Alleged was, how can I, so anyway, that's all that it here about that. But boy, does that make you want to know more. How the heck? Had you ever heard that before? 9 feet tall? Dang. Oh, gosh. So, Ed has sent me something. Let me just... Yeah, I saw this too. I find it hard to believe. Donald Trump's been doing a lot of interviews lately. He did one with the Washington Post, of all things, which I guess we could get to. But Ed saw this in the Guardian the other day, and I had seen this too in an interview with some guy who's writing a book about his presidency. Trump essentially admitted that he lost the election. I find that mind-blowing. It says here in The Guardian, the guy says that Trump actually came out and said, quote, "I didn't win the election." And this is in a video interview, all right, with a panel of historians convened by Julian Zelizer, a Princeton professor and editor of a book that is being called the first historical assessment of the Trump presidency. And it was The Atlantic. That's where I saw it. The Atlantic published this on Monday. But it just doesn't make any sense, does it? But then we're talking about Donald Trump here. So, so my sense of him is just anything that'll get us talking about him. And I think he really, as a matter of fact, in his interview, and I hate to talk about it, but in his interview with the Post, which is published today, he flat out said it's boring. He's talking about his life now. And he said it's boring, which tells you that the guy is like really desirous of getting things, more interesting again. So, am I having trouble getting back to my mail? In the Washington Post article, he also said, "Oh, please don't do this to me. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Dear Lord in heaven." Just hang there with me for a sec. I'm engaged in warfare with a technological device that is just beyond my ken. Here's the Washington Post article. Jesus. Their headline is "Trump deflects blame for January 6th." Now, in the interview with him, he says he had fully intended to march with all those good folks. By the way, he said it was the biggest. Remember the very first thing we knew about him is his obsession with crowd size. And he says that day, January 6th, the crowd was, like he thinks, the biggest ever. He says, "You don't see any pictures." That's what he would always say. "You don't see any pictures. But I swear it was the biggest I ever talked to." So he was interviewed at Mar-a-Lago. And among other things, he says he doesn't remember getting many phone calls January 6th. I don't want to go through this. It's just one piece of bullshit after another. He put the full blame on not getting these rioters under control on Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C. Nancy Pelosi, we shall recall, was literally running for her life at the time. This nice crowd of Trump supporters were actively looking for her and wishing her harm. Trump says that it was, oh, here's his thing on the crowd. Listen, the crowd was bigger than I even thought. I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. I don't know what that means, he says. I think I saw the question today. Is he insane or is he shrewd as hell? And I'm thinking, why do they have to be mutually exclusive? I'm thinking he's nuts. And I'm thinking there is an element of real shrewdness about the way he conducts himself. And again, to underestimate anybody who's still underestimating him is really, that's the nut. So I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And the next thing out of his mouth is, I don't know what that means. But you see very few pictures. They don't want to show pictures. The fake news doesn't want to show pictures. God. Anyway. He also said, guess who was there waiting to kiss his feet? He pointed the guy out. And I would say if I were this guy, I would take offense. But he won't because, well, he will in private. Because the Washington Post reporter notes that while he's talking to Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and they're sitting, I think outside, the reporter says, out on the patio was David McCormick, the Pennsylvania GOP Senate candidate and hedge fund honcho who wanted his endorsement. McCormick met with Trump later Wednesday. Trump asked the reporter if he should endorse McCormick or Dr. Oz, and said he'd be making a decision in about a week, noting that he was torn. And then he said, they all come here. He even went on to say that the president of Hungary, the little mini Putin, Viktor Orban, had won re-election because Trump endorsed him. Here's the quote. After I endorsed him, he went up like a rocket ship. And he said, other world leaders regularly call me because they like me so much. They want endorsements, he says. I'm the king of endorsements. And then he said, the last line in the story is, I don't want to comment on running, whether he's going to run again, but I think a lot of people are going to be very happy by my decision because it's a little boring now. There you have it. And as long as we're on the subject of this loathsome human who is the face and the heart, the very soul of the Republican Party, I just have two other things that I'd like to just check off and get out of here. And that's to recall the fact that what Trump is above all else is a grifter. And I'm sure you saw the piece. It's old now, but as I said, I haven't got around to all these things. You know how after a presidency, after Barack Obama's presidency is the one the most recent one that I recall, his photographer, the guy who was his White House photographer, a guy named Pete Souza, published this marvelous, book of photographs taken during Obama's presidency. And Barack Obama, enthusiastically wrote the foreword for the book. And this is not unusual. George W. Bush did the same thing for his photographer, also wrote the foreword, very supportive, knowing that these guys who'd been with them throughout their presidencies would then, garner a little money from their work. The New York Times reported that when Trump's photographer, a woman named Sheila Craighead, actually got a book advance payment for what was to be her book of pictures of the Trump presidency, Trump said to her, well, give me half of that advance payment. Half of that's mine, and then I'll write you a forward. And then Trump had somebody later, I'm sure she probably said, okay, Mr. President, and she ends up giving him money that she had gotten. Then he tells someone on his team to tell her to hold off. Wait. You tell her to just hold off on that book of hers. And she did. And you know what he did? He took her pictures and he put out a book using her pictures, which is now selling for as much as $230 a pop. Words fail. People looking at how this Trump book using her pictures is selling. The first run sold out, 300,000 copies, which at $75 a piece for the unsigned version suggests gross sales of at least $20 million. And in addition to an advance he got, which he didn't share with her, and half of the advance she might have given him, poor woman, and he'll be getting, it's unbelievable. And we know that this is not the only way that this family of grifters is cashing in. Here's one of Melania's latest. She, on President's Day, opened up sales of a series of digital images from the White House years, and specifically photos of Trump at Mount Rushmore and exiting Air Force One. And these were going for $50 a piece and directly into her pocket. Grifters! God! And that's one of the nice things you can say about him. Debbie says, yeah, Trump is nuts and he's shrewd. Because he's never charged with anything. He gets away with everything. When will he ever go away? I came upon two interesting quotes from the totally reprehensible Steve Bannon. A caller, I see you're there. I'll be right with you. And this is from a book that's been written about the Trump presidency, and it's written by, I believe, a New York Times reporter. It's gotten very good reviews. It's called Insurgency, and the subtitle: Remember when books didn't have subtitles? What? It drives me crazy. When did that happen? And they're always so goddamn long. Okay. The book is called Insurgency: How Republicans Lost Their Party and Got Everything They Ever Wanted. Well, that's a hell of a subtitle. Anyway, in this book, this reporter says that when Donald Trump came down that escalator at Trump Tower, God help us, when we were all oblivious to what was about to happen to us, this would be 2015, and announced he was running for the presidency. One of the people watching was Steve Bannon. And he watched, and he's quoted in the book as saying, "That's Hitler." Did you ever hear that one before? And just so you understand, coming from Bannon, that was a compliment. He saw in Trump the kind of qualities that Hitler had that allowed him, a nobody out of nowhere, to rise to power. He meant it as a compliment. And you'll recall that coming down the escalator, and there was a little crowd there. This is all at the Trump Tower food court, for God's sake. And there were people holding up signs. We later found out that those people holding up signs were paid $50 a piece. That's Hitler, said Bannon. And then I have another quote from Bannon. This is after he has been now in the Trump administration. And as you know, then later booted out of the Trump administration. And then, of course, he's back in many, many, many ways. Bannon said this: he just dominates every day. It's like a nightmare. You'll do anything. Rid of it. So now there's Bannon, who appreciated what Trump was offering to him and other like-minded anti-Democrats. And I say that in every meaning of the word. And even he was exhausted by him. So, Debbie, when you write, "When will he ever go away?" You've got the company of Steve Bannon there, who wants him to, but in other ways knows he needs him. It's like a nightmare at Steve Bannon. He'll do anything to get rid of it. Wow. All right, caller, if you're still there cursing my name, go ahead.
Morning.
Hi.
Hi. Hey.
Hi.
You know, it really gets me that people complain about Biden not doing enough, 40% approval rating. So their idea is, instead of giving him a supermajority, let's vote more Democrats and real Democrats, not like Manchin and Sinema or whatever the hell her name is. Putting those kind of people in, put in some real Democrats and give them a supermajority. We're going to vote Republican. The hell with it. That's what happens every time they get, oh, he's not doing it. I don't know what more they want the guy to do. I really don't. I think he's doing a pretty damn good job of what he's got to work against. I just don't get it. They did that with Obama. They do it with I don't know. It makes
That's right.
wonder.
I hear you.
And I try to be, like I said, I was trying to be more optimistic, but I can't justify
I was going to
stupidity.
say.
I really can't justify stupidity. And I just think we're stupid people out there. The majority of the people in America are stupid. and they fall for everything. And I just don't know. I'm not ready to
welcome back. Welcome back.
I'm not really ready to throw in the towel for the election because we were supposed to win the Senate and the House when Trump was in there, and that didn't happen. So they always exaggerate that. They may pull the House off, but it's like, so what are you going to do? Go vote Republicans? And you saw that show. I guess they want to watch that movie again and again and again.
I don't know. Like, it's beyond belief. Yeah, it is.
And it's really, like you said before, how can you have faith in us moving forward as a country when there's just too many stupid people? I mean, and it really is. I mean, I live across from Ohio, real close to Ohio and West Virginia, and you see them come over here, and they're carrying guns. They have got their Trump hats on, and then they're just moronic people. I hate to say it. Some of them, I don't know, but I have to avoid it. I haven't gone to a store in months. I just have stuff delivered. Not only because of the pandemic, I don't want to be around the other pandemic of the Republican Party. I'm really happy being at home because I have all kind of different things I do anyway. Play the guitar. I've all kind of hobbies. So I'm right in my element because I never really cared for people anyway. So for me to be away from, because when I worked with them, they were a pain in the ass then too. But you know, you had some friends and some you don't. But people were generally, to me.
Right. Well, I'm glad Mr. Happy has taken a little bit of a. I mean, it just didn't.
Well, I wasn't Mr. Happy, but I do reality. But
Mr.
I was trying to get you
everything will be fine.
There, but I guess it didn't work.
All right, you.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Bye. Oh, I want to note the passing, and shocking passing of someone who educated me a lot. I followed him on Twitter. I was so stunned to learn of his death last night. He was just 57 years old, and he was hit by a train while he was biking. I can't even begin. His name was Eric Boehlert, and he was just a crackerjack journalist. I mean, you might have seen him on, he sometimes showed up on the cable shows. I don't know. He was a senior fellow at Media Matters, and he had started his own newsletter just this last year or so. And I followed him because he was so smart. And what he mostly was a constant critic of media. And you've heard me get more and more critical of media, and I credit Eric Boehlert for waking me up to it. And it's interesting because what I have in front of me here is the New York Times obituary for him, where, of course, they fail to say that they were on the receiving end of much, much, much of his ire. They don't note that. They say he was a critic of the press. One of his books is called Lapdogs, How the Press Rolled Over for Bush. And he feels they rolled over for Trump, in fact, got Trump elected. And he was constant in pointing out how they were not rolling over for Biden. And in fact, quite the opposite. That Biden's successes were never trumpeted as successes. So, COVID going down or jobs coming up or all of this, it's always negative. There's never positives. And that is mainstream media. And once you get your eyes opened to it, you cannot fail to see it. And we will miss his voice and his just smart She's quoted here in the Times obit. The glaring disconnect between reality, and this is what our caller just said, the glaring disconnect between reality and how the press depicts Biden's accomplishments means a key question lingers. Why is the press rooting against him? And you know what? It's just interesting that the day after I learned of his death, here's a headline that would have driven him to distraction, and it drove me to distraction. I believe this, I got this out of the Washington Post. Here's the headline. Biden at war, inside a deliberate yet impulsive Ukraine strategy. Now, excuse me, I think I understand what words mean. I think I understand what deliberate means. And I think I understand what impulsive means. And I believe they are opposites. So I'm going to assume that this story is mostly a positive. I didn't read it. I was so pissed off I kept moving. I'm going to assume this is mostly a positive account of Biden handling the Ukraine war and, inside a deliberate Ukraine strategy. Would have been the headline if they weren't trying to constantly minimize everything about his presidency. And so you get this absurd addition of deliberate yet impulsive Ukraine strategy. They've always got to find a negative. And start watching for it. Watch it. Eric Boehlert is the one who fooled me. And I'm sadder but wiser as a result. Oh, gosh. Okay. God, I got so much stuff here. I gotta give you. Oh, here's something unbelievable. And I'll tell you what else the mainstream media do. They completely ignore the unbelievable, treasonous, outrageous, slanderous things coming out of the mouths of some of the Republicans on the far right, but that are members of Congress, that if they were Democrats would be huge stories. They're constantly given a pass. Getting pissed. I came upon this. You know that Amazon suffered an embarrassing defeat at the hands of a ragtag bunch of nobodies who managed to unionize one of their biggest fulfillment centers on Staten Island. And get this. News has leaked that Amazon is putting out, Amazon convened a high-level meeting in which top executives discussed plans to create an internal social media program for its employees so that they could recognize each other's performance with posts called shout-outs. This makes me so crazy, like they're children, and like getting little stars. And the major goal of the program, Amazon's head of worldwide consumer business said, was to reduce employee attrition by fostering happiness among workers. Shout-outs would be part of a reward system in which employees are awarded virtual stars and badges for activities that add direct business value. And at this meeting, this guy actually said to the other execs, you know, some people are insane star collectors. This is going to mean something to them. God almighty. I'll tell you what'll mean something to them. Being treated like a human being. But then other executives there said, well, I don't know about this. There's a dark side to social media. And they said, we have to actively monitor these posts in order to ensure a, quote, positive community. And so they decided to add an automatic bad word monitor. So that if any employee wrote one of these bad words, their post wouldn't post. There's a list of these keywords. Sit down. I'm seriously, sit down. It's long. Right at the top, union. Next, I hate. Compensation. Pay raise. Harassment. Stupid. Threat. Petition. Grievance. Injustice. Diversity. Ethics. Fairness. Accessibility. Vaccine. Living wage. Unfair. Unity. Plantation. Slave, slave labor, master, concerned, freedom, restrooms, robots, trash, and coalition. Those are all words that will get, I'll tell you what, this was leaked, obviously. There is no way. And when Amazon was approached with this leaked information, the Amazon spokesperson said, if we do decide to launch this at some point down the road, there are no plans for many of the words you are calling out to be screened. The only kinds of words that may be screened are ones that are offensive, which is intended to protect our team. Wow. And this is what I mentioned the other day. Do not get confused about what Big Brother is and who Big Brother is. Big Brother, not the government. That's sort of like Little Brother. Big Brother is Amazon and other corporations like them. Oh, hey, thanks, Milton. Milton found a 1932 Pittsburgh Press article about the 49 giant skeletons unearthed near Pittsburgh. Wow. All right. Well, I'll look. I'm going to do that later. While I was denigrating corporations, let me, though, tell you something that I found exceedingly interesting. And I can't remember where I found it. It was Bloomberg News. So all of these anti-abortion laws that are sweeping through the red state legislatures, Oklahoma being the most recent, they just passed an abortion law that literally criminalizes it from day one. Day one. You just cannot ever, ever, ever have an abortion. Companies that are headquartered or who have, employees in these states where abortion, although supposedly a legal medical procedure in the United States of America, but certain states are saying you can't get it here. Companies in those states have begun offering employees reimbursement for any travel costs that they accrue because they have to leave the state to access abortion services. So corporations are stepping up and paying. Here's what I've got here. Corporations like Citigroup, Apple, Bumble, Hewlett-Packard are now offering such benefits if reproductive care services are not available in the employee's home state. And they're doing that, obviously, because, well, listen, I'm just saying, it's incredible. We got a caller. Hello?
Hey, Mike.
Hi.
How you doing? My company does that corporate engagement thing that Amazon does too.
Do you think they have? Do you think they have a list of words that get posts knocked off?
So it must be something they teach in when they get their MBAs, that business engagement is important. And my company also does this thing where it feels like weekly, but it's probably more like monthly. We have to fill out surveys about how well we like the company.
Oh, how disgusting.
It's completely anonymous, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Well, there's nothing more annoying than, like my car dealer does this. If you go in for repair or anything, you get this thing. And you're actually told by the person when you leave, you're going to get this, or please give us all 10s because otherwise, and I'm thinking, well, then what is the purpose of that? And I refuse to ever fill those things out.
Me too. When they call and say, will you fill out a survey? I say, no, I don't give my opinion away for free. If you'd like my opinion, you'll have to pay for it. Because companies pay millions of dollars to get feedback from their employees.
Information. That's right.
Yeah, I'm not giving it to you for free.
Yeah.
So that must be a corporate America thing that it's called corporate engagement. And all it really does is someone gets a high.
It's offensive.
Yeah. All that happens when somebody gets a high five is I think, this sounds terrible, why didn't I get a high five? I did my shit today. Right? Or they end up creating people who the other employees don't like. Right. And my company does give a spot bonus, they call it. So we have to go to a monthly meeting. It's horrible. And in the first 5 minutes, they say, who's going to get the spot bonuses? I listen to see if I'm one of them. And then I leave the call. Yeah, and then I leave.
They're gonna flag you.
No, I'm still I just mute it.
Oh, I see. So I have to say that this is infantilizing.
Yes.
Grown-ups, workers. It infantilizes them.
Yeah.
That they can be bought by an instant bonus or a star or a free pizza.
Right.
Offensive. unbelievably offensive.
And it's offensive in the sense that you think I'm a sucker.
Right.
You think I'm so stupid that a high five is going to get me to work harder, or when I see a coworker get a high five for doing their timesheet on time is going to make me want to do mine on time. Or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
The other thing that's like that, if I ever end up, in a like nursing home situation, and let's say I make it to my 90th birthday and somebody sticks a fucking little party hat on me, I hope I have enough strength to leap from my wheelchair and strangle them.
And those people always have the same look on their face that a dog has on their face when you put a hat on them.
Why don't people understand? God, it is so condescending and offensive.
But it isn't about the receiver. It's the same issue with the company. It's not about the receiver. It's so the company can say, well, we're doing all we can to make our employees feel valued. It doesn't matter that the turnover rate is 320%. We're doing everything we can. Clearly or not, people wouldn't be leaving in droves.
Right. And one of the reasons that Amazon gave for wanting this, this internal social media platform was to, get a hold of the attrition, the just staggering loss of employees, the turnover. As if, as I said, how about treating them with as valuable parts of your business?
Or with people who have bladders.
Oh, yes, right. At the very least.
Go to the bathroom.
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah, fellow humans with bladders. God. Incredible.
So I guess there must be suckers, because you and I say this, but other people must be saying, I work for the best company ever. I got a high five today. You know what I mean?
That's somebody who's been... Oh. That's somebody with not enough self-respect.
And here's another point. The company's paying somebody to do that. So they can pay a six-figure salary to get somebody to work on company engagement, but they can't split up that salary and give it to the workers.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
so
dear.
You should be glad you're out of the business world, because this is it now.
I got my son is in it, and I can see how dispiriting it is, and it is so offensive. I don't blame people for walking away from this. I can't imagine. I don't know what people are supposed to do and maintain their a sense of dignity and self-respect.
That's what dogs say when they have to wear hats, right? And it sort of feels that.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. Okay. I'm going to try to get a bunch of stuff in here. Ruth sends me something that I do know of. That the folks in Churchill that drove back that Amazon facility there. That is not necessarily a done deal. You see, Amazon wasn't the one that was asking for the permits. It was a developer, Hillwood Development, that works often with Amazon. So they were doing it for Amazon. And Amazon, as you know, said, all right, we're out of here. We withdraw. The people who actually still have the permits, this Hillwood Development, have told the borough through their attorney that they are moving forward with the project. They've also informed the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It is not known exactly what's happening here, but all of the celebration that David had had killed Goliath, what's if you have a had in front of it? What is the word? Oh, God. That, it might not be true. So I had heard this too, because I am close to some of the people involved in this. Okay. And thank you, Ruth, for all of that. Maybe I can get some stuff out there about it. Denver go in a totally different direction, but trying to, again, get some stuff in. Just two things that are happening in other states that you might not have heard of, both of which are slightly positive. The city of Denver instituted a program where when police used to be called to go to some kind of an issue, a problem that people were calling in for help about, they instituted a program called STAR, which instead of police being dispatched, social workers are dispatched. And this system has already resulted in over 2,000 calls, 2,000 separate incidents that before would have been handled by the cops and now are being handled by social workers. And just early information in on it is wow. These social workers have never once called for police backup in any of these cases. And these are cases, anything having to do with intoxication, mental health issues, where when cops go, you often end up with dead people. These social workers are not armed. They're armed with knowledge and skills. And everybody stays alive and good results are gotten. So I just want to point that out and wonder why we aren't doing that here. Thank you. Also, I want to say this. This is mind-blowing. The state of New Mexico has passed a law. Republicans and Democrats passed the law. The Democratic governor signed it. And it is offering free college to all state residents. Unbelievable. They have allocated 1% of the state's budget for covering tuition and fees at public colleges and universities, at community colleges, and at tribal colleges. All state residents, with high school graduates to adults who might just be enrolling part-time, will be eligible, regardless of family income. That's it. The program is also open to immigrants, regardless of their immigration status. This passed in New Mexico. The legislature decided to treat college as a public resource, similar to primary and secondary education. It's incredibly inclusive. It covers, this applies to prison inmates. It applies to Native Americans from tribes tribal nations whose boundaries might extend, let's say, into a neighboring state. Meaning that someone from the Navajo Nation in Arizona can be considered a New Mexico resident for tuition purposes because the Navajo Nation also extends into New Mexico. Unbelievable. Just wanted you to know. Those are two extraordinarily progressive, positive things, both coming out of the southwest of the United States. And I wanted you to know it. Okay? I think that's it for me. The clock's telling me that. And I got a little bit of a truncated week next week. I'll be here Monday, and then I'll explain. But I'll be here Monday. Got a great guest coming in on Thursday, and then hope things settle down a little bit. But who the hell knows? These are strange times. Thank you all for being there and for your input. And have a great rest of the week till I see you again. Ta-da.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.